Right.
That's the
Maeve did
most
that
correct.
yesterday.
That's the
Maeve
best way
just
to start a
A broadcast.
corgi farts.
That's it. Maeve did it to me yesterday. She got up, stretched out. I was taking her outside. She stretched out and farted right on me. It was one of those.
It's
Did you
unfortunate.
really actually do that? So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I think I've posted all the social media.
Yeah, I just retweeted.
That. All right. So anybody who's actually going to watch can now watch. Let's see. Let's go over what happened last time, which admittedly didn't involve all of you, but we'll go from there. So I know Cord wasn't involved last time because he wasn't here last time.
No.
Wraith, what was going on with you?
I did mine last week. I did my um montage last week. We did the oh gosh, or last session. What did we do? Hold on, let me think here. I did. I did a lot of information gathering. Um, so I went around in various guises in order to basically from the lowest class to the highest class to try and get a grasp of any whisperings or murmurs that may be going on in Sharn. Some of the particular things that I had pointed I had noticed was that the lower class was they seem to be very tight-lipped. Not so much solely because of the stranger in your environment. Even more so, kind of like a similar situation to like a violent crime being committed. Nobody saw nothing kind of mindset. I noticed that in particular, although I didn't find out any specifics. It did seem to be that everybody was just playing hush because you don't want to be the one to be pegged as a rat. Um, the other thing that I managed to pick up when I went slumming around the mid class of Sharn is I some of the talking eventually led me to some information that could be true, could not be true, of Kalashtar that were living in that very tower where the massacre had occurred. Um, but nothing that we had particularly known about, or at least I had known about. That's not to say that everybody as a whole didn't know. So it seemed like something worth pursuing. Um, in the high class, in my casing of the high class areas and haunts, particularly parties and things of that nature, there was a note of the upper class. They were missing certain Cannith scions, certain face, certain what's the word I'm looking for? Certain mouthpieces of House Cannith, which could typically be found in these various parties, soirees, and such. Um, they hadn't been seen for a little while. So not necessarily so much that folks are pointing out, oh, they're missing or kidnapped or anything like that nature, but they just hadn't been seen in a while, and that was odd. And they also were speaking about again the split in Kenneth is something that seems to be gossip going around the upper class as well. Um, Additionally, I did manage to pick up House Madani members who were in these same soirees that I was casing, which struck me as odd, being that House Madani is kind of an information broker and house of, for lack of a better term, spies, as it were, information gatherers. And I noticed an increase in their number, or I noticed the members of the house in the present at those things. Um, and then it particularly all came out to an ending where a person that was apparently homeless um, ultimately grabbed onto me, gave me a story, and then basically warned me that I was being followed. at which point I went into paranoid spy overdrive and attempted to shake and shift forms to get rid of any tails that I may have had. But I did not have any particular information as to who these tails were, what they wanted, and so forth. And that's pretty much what I did last time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It would be, it would almost be foolproof except for the fact that he can't do that. Mostly the corgi part. I have faith in his ability to do the rest.
Well, the druid could do it then, fine.
Yeah, the druid can.
Shift into
The
corgi,
druid,
quick.
The druid has the right body mass to actually do that.
You could turn into a squirrel. You could turn into a corgi.
Yeah, you can. Well, and we can always go and visit. We can always go and visit our friend with this crippling jam addiction, if we wanted to see a corgi, who's currently housed in some dark lantern hospice.
Kennel.
Kennel, yeah, the official kennels. All right.
The corgi?
That hasn't been disclosed where the corgi is.
Corgi has been
I know
sent
where
on
mine
a
is, but
mission. None of
what
us
was
have.
that?
Corgi has been sent
Yeah.
on a secret mission. None of us have clearance.
Yeah, pretty much. A secret corgi only mission, which is probably going a lot better than your mission. Let's be realistic.
Our mission's going just great if we love going around in circles.
All right. We also last week had, let's see, Lucan met with met with the person who was overseeing the magical device that was placed in his chest to keep him from going full vampire. And everything seemed to be okay, but he heard that one of the captain of the King's Swords was coming into Sharn in a couple of days to have a meeting with him, because they want to see for themselves and make sure that he's not a threat or a danger. And let's see, I think that might have been all last week. Or last session, I mean. There will be an off ramp at some point soon, actually. So that being said, we still have 3 people who need to do their montages for the week to 10 days that you had to yourself. So who wants to go first?
I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, then since you're ready, let's go ahead and start with you.
I have a question first.
Yeah.
We were supposed to talk to our handler to get information about which of the corpses was closest to the broken device, so that we could go back and talk to the corpse that was closest to the broken device. Did we all meet with our handler the next day, or were we going to find someone?
You probably would have met with your handler at least every other day, individually or as a group. So it's
okay. So we share this information with him, and I assume he said, "I'll get back to you."
Yeah, initially, and a couple of days later, he had that information for you.
Okay.
If you're planning on speaking, then he's going to send you back over to the morgue. You'll meet with what's his name?
Well, I was going to ask. Is that something we all want to do together, or is that something we want to handle set? I have stuff I've done that I can do without the group.
It's up to you guys. Sorry.
I would be interested in rolling with her on that end.
Okay. Anybody else? You don't all have to go. If just some of you want to go, that's fine too.
I think that I'm going to be occupied with my own things.
Probably. All right. So I don't know. Is Eddie even back yet?
Sounds like he's still peeing.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. No, I've been back. I posted the whole thing.
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah.
So would Wraith go as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. I might have missed that part. What are we going on?
Uh, go over it again, Brandy, real quick.
I said our handler, we were supposed to go talk to the handler to find out which body was closest to the broken device to go back to the morgue to talk to that body specifically with different questions.
I don't think I would go because I would feel like my character would be more along the mindset than you guys to probably be able to handle the questioning more aptly than me, and I would probably stay keeping an eye on Winsome and the devices and that research. So I feel that would be probably something a little bit security is a little bit more my speed.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. So Cord and we'll say that just for ease of going forward that Lucan won't go for his own reasons. He probably doesn't like being around dead people because it reminds him he is technically dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was bugged by that anyway.
Yeah, he
was
was.
close to that. So,
Yeah. Plus, he's dealing with the fact that he's got a meeting with the swords, which doesn't sound like it's a fun time. So, all right, so let's go ahead and do that then. So, you guys, this is probably halfway through the time period we mentioned, and you guys head over to the morgue after you've gotten the information from your handler as to which ones were the closest and which ones were further away. So you can, if you want to, you can have a gradient in terms of talking to people.
Okay.
So you head over to, where was it? Actually, half of you were there already. Cord, and where the hell is Gemma? There you are. So you guys head over to Dagger Watch and the Sharn Watch. They're obviously expecting you. Since you've been here before, they recognize you and just kind of wave you on in. You can tell that they're still giving you a look. They're still like, why are these people here? Why do they have such open access when they're not members of the Watch? But for the most part, they don't give you anything more than a look. So you head up to the morgue, and I can't for the life of me remember the wizard's name.
For you.
Yeah, I'm looking. This is one of those things that I forgot to do.
I believe it was in the May 4th session. I'm just going to check.
Was it really that far?
Maybe later, maybe March 27th. Yeah, no, it was May 4th. Alistair.
Okay, Alistair. So he meets you there. He nods respectfully when you come in and says, I understand that you have more reason to ask questions of these poor, unfortunate souls.
Gemma hands him a cup of café con leche and a croissant.
He looks in considerable surprise, and he sips the coffee and nods appreciatively and says, "This certainly makes the whole experience considerably more tolerable. I thank you. I appreciate it."
You are welcome. So we supply him with the list of. I assume we've organized this list. How many do we want to talk to, Cord?
How many were we able before he was exhausted before? I mean,
It wasn't an exhaustion thing before. It was you guys didn't feel you had enough information to ask a lot of questions. Basically, the questions you'd asked had raised more questions than they'd answered.
Yes.
So that was the reason you guys stopped last time, if I remember correctly.
Actually, I'm sorry. It was LSR, our
Oh,
handler.
LSR. Alistair is is your handler. That's right.
This is LSR.
Yeah, I might need to change those names so they're easier to distinguish. Let's be realistic. Because even though they're spelled completely different, they sound too much alike. So,
So again, that means so we're not really worried about how many we got to do. We just got to figure out which questions we need to ask, so we don't waste.
right, and the
Yeah, do we want to question all of them now, or do we want to question a few and then bring the information back to the team and see if they've got any ideas? I think we should only question maybe 3 to 5. The 3 to 5 that were closest, and then go back to the team with what we find out and see if they've come up with different questions.
Right. Yeah, that sounds fine.
all right. So which one do you?
Having trouble.
So we're going for the 5 that are the ones that were closest to the blast.
Okay, so you're gonna start with them then.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna start with the one that was absolutely the closest, as far as you can tell, or
I think we should go backwards because maybe like if we go from the 5th farthest, because if we can get to the closest, maybe we can hone down the question or the way we want to get to it.
okay.
I don't know. It just seems kind of.
So I'm
Makes a
sorry,
little
sorry,
more
the
sense.
person closest or farthest?
Out of the 5, the farthest.
Okay.
So out of the 5 closest, the farthest away.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is looks like an elderly human woman. Maybe in her mid-50s, early 60s, perhaps. Somewhat overweight, but otherwise nothing stands out about her physically in your eyes.
No markings, or how did she?
Nothing immediately seems noticeable.
Is she an attacker or an attackee?
If she is an attacker. And with that in mind, having that in mind, you look and you can see around her hands, her fingernails, where they've in some cases it looks like she's ripped them free of her body, probably if she was attacking someone else.
Ah.
Was she what?
She
I'm
ripped
sorry?
her own fingernails off.
Yeah.
Attacking. So yeah. That's gruesome.
So other than that, there doesn't seem to be anything about her. Let's see. Cord, make me. You don't really have anything that's relevant on this. Go ahead and make me just a straight wisdom check.
Oh Christ.
Gemma, make me either Princess of the Underworld or Vet.
11. Wait. No, that doesn't work because I'm not using that. So take away the +3, so I have an 8. So don't worry about it.
With wisdom?
Yes, with wisdom.
I can remember how to do this.
You do the radio dial for the background and then click on the attribute.
Okay. Did it do anything?
You have to enter the modifier if there is one. In this case, there isn't.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay, 14. Neither of you really notice anything else unusual about her. You know that as an attacker, she had to have been subdued in some way and killed, but you don't see any evidence of what could have done that.
Okay. I looked at Jen, but where should we go with our questioning? Do you have an idea plan for this?
Review our previous information. Should be about 3 to 4 questions each. Do you remember what were you doing before the attack started? What did you feel while the attack was going on? Did you notice anything before the attack that seemed odd or unusual? How does that sound?
All right, yeah, let's go with those and see what we get from this one. Maybe we'll be able to. Maybe there's something since they were closer.
Okay.
And
So-
like, yeah, the notice, like, if did you notice anything strange? Would be, obviously, visual
That's not
and
first.
audio. Yeah. All right.
All right. So Elistar or Elstar, I can't even remember now. Fuck.
I think you just smushed them
Elisar.
together.
I think I did. I'm sorry. What was it, Brandy?
Elisar is
Elisar. Yeah, I really need to change that. I will do it later, but I will change it. So Elisar, he asks, make sure you're ready, that you've got your questions, and then when you indicate that you do, he starts to perform the ritual. It doesn't take very long, but it's you've seen it before. It's not terribly interesting at this point, and after probably 10 minutes, he looks at you and nods to indicate that you can ask your questions now.
So I asked, did you notice anything before the attack? Anything unusual?
There's a rattling sound coming from the corpse, kind of a groan, like somebody who hasn't talked for a long time is finding their voice again. And after a moment, the corpse says, "Everything was as any other night."
What were you doing before the attack?
I was reading with my husband and had fallen asleep.
Was your husband asleep?
I do not know.
How did you feel during the attack?
I felt as though I was far away watching myself do these things. I was not there, but I was there. Something was with me watching.
What happened to your husband?
There's another gurgling sound, and the corpse becomes quiet.
I asked Elisar if he knows who her husband was.
Yeah, he looks for a second, and then he goes, "I don't remember offhand, but I think I have that information somewhere around here." We've been doing a great deal of research on who was there, who should have been there, and who wasn't there. So let me see. And he goes over and there's a table set up to the side that seems to have. It looks like personal effects from some of the bodies have been piled there, along with other tools for like autopsies, and there are some books and pieces of parchment paper on one of those tables, and he heads over to that table, picks up a journal, and starts flipping through. It takes him a few minutes, but then he looks back at the journal, looks over again, and he says, "I believe it is this gentleman over here," and he leads you to another corpse. This one looks like a man in there. The man looks younger than what you assume his wife was, maybe his early 50s, late 40s. He's also somewhat overweight, darker skinned than his wife, but he was definitely one of the people attacked. You can see that there are very large gouges in his chest and neck and face. It's very easy for those of you, for you guys to be able to tell that this is probably how his wife mangled her fingers. It probably just gouging his flesh like that. Um, but Elsar looks and says, "This should be yes, this should be the woman's husband. It was somewhat farther away from where we determined the epicenter to be."
How much farther?
He flips over the page, goes down the page a little bit. Seems to be. It's difficult to say with 100% certainty, but he seemed to be about 5 or 6 yards away. In another room, he seemed to be in the kitchen, making tea. I believe. That's the indication that the investigators have come to.
So you have information about the location of these people when the attack happened?
Yes. It's difficult to put all of them in their exact position because the nature of the attack meant that many of them moved when they attempted to defend themselves from the attackers, but we can put them at an approximate location.
Were they in neighboring apartments or?
Very few of them were outside of their own apartments. Some were inside. As far as we've been able to determine, and he flips through some other he flips back towards the beginning of the journal. There were 5 individuals who were attacked outside of their apartments. Of those, 2 of them seem to have been doing something outside their apartments. The others seem to have reacted to the noise being made by the attacks and left to investigate.
Just thinking on that for.
Of those who are closest to the
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's the question I wanted to ask. Hold on.
Okay.
The attackers. Was there a radius or an area where we think they were when they started attacking? Was it within a certain area, like a certain apartment block, or was it scattered through the whole floor?
I see what you're asking then. He says, yes, we've got an approximate diameter of the effect. As before, it's only an approximate because we don't know enough about it yet to be able to pin it down more specifically. But from what we've been able to tell from the effects, it seems that it's reached to the floor above in part and to the floor below in part. It appears to have been detonated, for lack of a better word, from the second floor of the apartment complex and enveloped most of the entire second floor along with most of the first floor and third floor.
All of these people were attackers?
No. None. Very few of these were the attackers. As best we've been able to determine, all of the attackers were asleep at the time of the event.
Okay. But the attackers were scattered throughout the first, second, and third floors, with most of them being on the second floor?
Yes, they were all across the area. None of them. Nobody on the fourth floor was affected that we were able to determine. However, that could have been a matter of only there were no sleepers within that radius.
We know there were no sleepers, or we're speculating?
This is speculation. As far as we know, there were no sleepers. uh, within that radius on the 4th floor. We don't know if it's because there were no sleepers or because the effect didn't extend to the 4th floor. And as you're aware, the 1st floor, that is the bottom floor, and it went down. Was it stairway? Yeah, the stairways went down into the stores from there. The tower continued downward, but there were no other apartment complexes below the 1st floor. So right now we don't have enough information to be able to tell whether the 4th floor being avoided was because of the radius or because no one was in a position where they were vulnerable to this event.
Thank you, LSR. That was very helpful.
It's what I'm here for. I would prefer that we solve this as quickly as possible. I don't know what you've seen on or heard on the streets, but people are somewhat tense about what's going on right now. It's even during the war, nothing quite like this ever happened, and it was usually considerably less mysterious. In the case of a serial killer, 1 or 2 victims here and there is one thing. Large public attacks are another thing, but this is.
So this hasn't been kept under wraps at all. Then they haven't been able to.
As I know that the Watch and the Citadel have tried to keep this as quiet as possible, but when there are this many people that die in a single event, such a thing is not completely possible to keep under wraps. The most you can hope for is to delay the inevitable, and it seems that at least some of the information has gotten out. It's hard to say what truths are being passed around and how much of it is supposition, but nevertheless, people are talking about it.
All right. Crap.
Cord, do you have ideas for a different set of questions?
I'm just wondering if we don't know what this presence is. They've been saying there's a presence, but we don't know anything about this presence, do we? I think we should maybe focus on that.
Okay.
Just to get some information on that, to know possibly if we can figure out what we're dealing with on that end, and then maybe kind of hopefully reverse engineer this in a way to figure out what they're bringing, maybe, and then we can find intent in what they're doing on this.
All right. The next closest person, is that a victim or an attacker?
It is. Let me see.
I think we should go with an attacker again.
Yeah, let's just skip to the next closest person that's an attacker.
The next closest person is an attacker.
Are all the 5 closest people attackers?
No. In fact, this is the last attacker. The next 3 are victims.
So I've got 2 questions, because I'm going to ask them if they felt the presence with them, and then ask them if they could name that presence. And then I don't know where to go from that. Do you have any ideas after that?
Well, do they feel a presence? Can they name that presence? If they cannot name it, can they describe it?
Okay, yeah, good, okay.
Ouch.
You okay?
Yeah, you know
Okay. So, wow, was that a firework?
Yes,
Yes, it
that
was.
one was too. I told you, I live in the ghetto. Those are just mortars going off at this point.
Yeah, I can tell. Wow, those are seriously loud.
At least they're fireworks.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, it's the age-old question: gunshot or fireworks?
Yeah, I at this point, the week before and the week after, I just assume they're all fireworks, and then beyond that, it's however you make it.
Around here, that's not always as easy, as Eddie can no doubt confirm. Okay, so the first question is, how do you want to phrase it? How do you want to put it? Actually, first, let me get you a description of this one.
Yeah.
This is looks like a half-elf male.
A what?
Half-elf man. He seems to be maybe in his 30s. Being a half-elf, it's not always easy to tell on these things. But yeah, that's the best as you can figure. He is covered in looks like bruises, contusions, scrapes, scratches. It looks like somebody. It looks like they're defensive wounds is the term.
Mhm.
So and it looks like there are a lot of them, as best as you can tell. In fact, it looks like he had his nose broken, probably his jaw broken. It's hard to tell if it's the way the corpse is setting or the way or if it was actually broken. But he looks like he's been in a serious scrape.
All right, then. So yeah, well, so the first, when you were attacking, did you feel a presence with you?
Okay, so all right,
Yeah.
that's your first question.
Yes. Yeah.
The
Mhm.
the corpse gurgles, and eventually a voice, a deep voice comes through. It says, "I was not alone. Something, someone was with me, pushing me."
Could you name that someone pushing you?
I cannot.
Can you describe this someone pushing you?
The the dream, the the dream never stopped. The dream wouldn't let me go. I fought, but it wouldn't let me go.
Gemma, do you have any other question? Anything?
Tell me about your dream.
I dreamed red, rage, distance, so much distance, so far away, so wrong, so alien in its thinking. It hurt me. It scared me. It pushed me to the side.
Did it talk to you?
I felt it thinking. I felt the words, but did not comprehend.
Did you recognize a language?
No. It was not speech. It was thought, emotion, memory.
Did you say memory?
Memory, yeah. Do you have any other questions?
We've already asked him like 5.
Yeah, I can't think.
You've
of
gotten
the
more out of
answers.
him than you think that you normally would have.
Um, what made it stop?
The bridge. The bridge that closed the distance fell apart. But it held on so tightly that even if as it was dragged away, it took some of me with it.
What? What did it take from you?
No more answers. The voice fades away, and the light from the ritual fades with it.
Well, that right there is a lot of information. I'm just wondering,
Yes, it is.
like, I mean, so it's rage, the dream never stopped. Just like all of these things, it seems like we should be able to speak to somebody who would.
Well, I want to talk to Dee because he experienced a presence in the area, and I want to know. I want to see if these feelings that he got, or this speech that he got that the person was talking about, was equivalent to what he felt from the presence.
All right, yeah, let's see if we can. Yeah, go speak. See if you want. Yeah, totally.
Do we have any questions for the victims?
I'm trying to think of what would the victims. They would be able to see. They would be able to see if the attackers are doing anything, but like, I'm just trying to. I can't really think of anything right now.
I would think maybe one of them just asked, how did you notice a difference? What was there a difference? What was the difference? That would be the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, was there anything visually different or anything audibly different? Are they speaking in tongues? Are they saying anything when they're doing it? Are they just babbling? Are they just, I guess, going for that? So I guess, yeah, we could ask one of the 3 on that.
You can always come back another time. I mean, at this point, you've had. You still have time in the montage itself, plus afterward if you have other questions.
Okay.
Because right now they're still being kept on ice, more or less, until this whole thing is solved to Irvelin's satisfaction.
Yeah, we should go meet up with Shwandi and figure out what's going on with this and see if maybe he has more insight on that.
Okay.
Because I feel if we know what, like I said, what we're dealing with, we can
Ask better questions.
yeah, we can get the right questions and find out who's doing something. Because I know House Cannith is still doing something, and I have a person I could possibly bully for information at some point.
Yes.
At least what I'm hoping for. But I'd love to know what they're doing. Stupid ass demon ass things.
like Aaron said, I've got plenty of other things I can do with the montage too. So.
Mother effing montage.
Thank you, Odd Deal. Sorry, world.
Like a lot. Like a whole lot.
Thank you, Elisar. Do you have any requests for goodies for next time?
If you bring the same thing, I will be more than happy.
Okay.
So, all right. So, is there anything else that Gemabeth wants to do in this
Yes.
time frame?
I have a list of people provided to me by the nice young man, not so young man that I was speaking to. I would like to go talk to those people. I would like someone to either go for me or go with me to talk to Professor Drazen, as apparently he doesn't really work with women very well. But Juliana, and Eric's and Fridas, I'd like to talk to them.
Okay.
And I'd like to go on another date with that nice young man. As soon as I remember his name.
His name is... Oh, bloody hell.
That's
I'm really bad with names lately.
Aiden. His name
Yes,
is Aiden.
that's right. Aiden, that's right.
Angus?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm bad with names today. Or in general. Let's be realistic. Probably in general.
Didn't say it.
Considering I'm making them up, you'd think I'd be better, but no, I'm not. You'd also think that would make me write stuff down. No, it doesn't. Even though I have a whiteboard right here, which is admittedly full, so at least I have that excuse still going for me.
That's the spirit.
No, it's really full. I'm not kidding you. All of your backgrounds and icons are written on here. That's how I know what I can ask you for. It's a very handy reference in that respect, but I just kind of need another one, like right here, of the same size. But either way, let's see. All right, so which one did you want to go to first?
Well, the question is someone going to go question Professor Drazen with me or for me? Because I'd like to get the unpleasantness out of the way first if I have to do it.
Yeah, anybody else gonna go? Is everybody else muted? It's hard to tell on Eddie's because of his icon.
It's in our montage.
Yeah, we can go through this as a montage. We don't need to roleplay it out each individual part. So the question is, what do you want to get out of asking these questions? What information do you want from them?
If they have noticed what they have noticed coming out of or going on in the Mournland, specifically related to the Day of Mourning, like have they made any research in the Day of Mourning itself and what caused it? But if there's anything, if there's anything new and exciting, what's going on? Can they confirm or deny the rumors that Aegon shared about what's going on in the Mournland? That's what you were looking for, right, Lloyd?
Yes.
Okay.
So you go around to each of them. Most of them are not unhappy to talk about things because you know how people that are really invested in a topic, especially one that they're researching, can be. You know how you just have to start them up, and they'll talk your ear off about that particular topic. Most of these are exactly like that. They They talk a lot about the Mournland. They talk about their personal theories about what happened there. What you get out of it after talking to all of them is that they still have no idea what the hell caused it. In terms of current events, nothing seems related to what you're dealing with here. A lot of the information that you heard before in terms of the Mournland seems to be what they're going into, stuff about the Warforged making their own god. Some other Warforged are settling in to make their own country out of the place. A lot of the rumors you've heard before are the ones that they're bringing up now, and there isn't a lot of concrete information even from them, and what you get out of that is it's very difficult, expensive, and dangerous to mount an expedition into the Mournland. It's easier to pass through the Mournland, but even that's a risky proposition. People who are going there and staying there for any length of time, like you would need to for an investigation, it's difficult to get the funding and the personnel for it. So even Moorgrave, which has a reputation a bit of being treasure hunters more than researchers, even they don't necessarily get to go into the Mournland and see current events as often as they would like. So a lot of stuff is even with these experts, and you can tell that they are as much of an expert as anybody else, even they don't have a very clear picture of what's going on now and what's happened since the day of mourning.
Right.
Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to do in your montage before we go onward?
Just like I said, had a wonderful evening dinner with Agan again.
Okay, that's fine. I will, on the NPC thing, remind me before we disconnect completely. I want to talk about at the end. So,
Okay.
All right. So we have two left. We have Juan B, and we have Cord. Who wants to go next?
Well, I was just gonna say part of mine was dealing with Jim Best montage as well.
Right.
The second half of that is I want to actually hit up one of my NPCs. I just lost him. Hold on. Baron Lawn, the professor mentor at the university.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially at this point, I need to help him because he knows about what I do with the Dark Lanterns, so he's privy to that, and I'm not giving him any information, but I need him to set up a meeting with myself and Delru, the Canith rival student of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet, but soon, because I know I need to speak with Xuan D to see if we can figure out. I want a little bit more information when I get with her, but I need to set it up so I can get her in a room essentially alone without her suspecting anything at this point. So hopefully I can pump some information from her. Hopefully once I get a little bit more information myself.
Okay. Yeah, that won't be a problem. So you talk to him, and it might take a few days. You know how Kenneth can be. They don't come out for air a whole lot sometimes.
Absolutely.
And right now, maybe unrelated to what's going on, but everybody in Kenneth is a little more clammed up than they otherwise might be.
That's why I was kind of hoping you could do it under the pretenses of school projects, possibly something along those lines, something to get her in the ambition of moving forward, that sort of thing on that, to possibly wet her whistle enough to come out at least for a little bit for that.
I think I can do this. I might have to leave your name out of it.
Absolutely.
She's
That's
not your biggest fan, but
oh, it's mutual, and yeah, keep my name far away from it at this point because yeah, I would much prefer that to be a bit of a surprise.
do you suspect her involvement in everything that's going on?
I don't suspect her involvement, but I suspect she knows something about the involvement. I don't think she's doing it specifically or having anything along those lines. I don't think she's smart enough for that. But I do think that she has enough ambition to try to be pushing into places where she may not have wanted to, and hopefully will give us a little bit more information on what I need.
All right, I can do this. If you don't suspect her, then I suppose you wouldn't mind this meeting being in a public location. It might be easier to get her to agree in that particular case if she thinks it's discussing her work over a cup of coffee or tea.
Yeah, we can work with that, and it'll probably make it easier. I think we can work with that.
Did you say public or private? I got that backwards.
Public.
Public.
I thought.
Yeah, and when we go, we'll just roll with me, and hopefully, I'll be able to work this out.
I can do this. I must admit there's some discomfort in doing this, deceiving one student to help you. Damaging the student-teacher relationship is something that, if this were any less dire than it seems to be, I would absolutely refuse.
If this didn't have to deal with an insane amount of people going insane and killing one another, I would never bring this to you. But due to this fact, and I really am, this is more for her benefit at this point, because if we can get her out of something like this, there's a possibility to keep a, God damn it, you're making me say it, a very able mind to keep in with the studies of the college. God damn it.
Okay. If it's possible, perhaps we can make your meeting seem like an accident or a coincidence that would do less damage between the two of us, I suspect.
All right. Definitely agree with that.
It may be a few days, as I mentioned, but I will set something up and I will let you know as soon as I have done so.
Sweet. Excellent. I do very much appreciate this, and like I said, I will definitely be owing you a favor on this end.
Under other circumstances, I might not call you in on that, but in this case, I very well might.
All right. So at that point, I'm just going to move on to eventually meet up with Juan D.
Okay. So we'll go there, and then now we'll go over to Juan D for his turn in the montage.
Okay. Primarily, I'm going to be going through kind of routine on every day. My mornings are spent tending to shop. I wake up, eat breakfast, open the shop, balance any kind of books, do any kind of financial whatnots. When I'm not doing that, I am promoting, looking for opportunities to make sure that I still have clients. My assistant is not particularly good in that field, but I have a little bit more of a knack for it than he does, so I'm going to try to help move that along. once it hits about noon and takes over for me tending shop. That's the point where I go off to Moorgrave, and it alternates. Some days I go off to Moorgrave and do research on the Mournlands and the possible connection with, was it House Kenneth that keeps on popping up?
Yeah.
Okay. At House Kenneth and the Mournlands, finding out what they've done over there. I do a little bit of research on the Forgeborn and their Maid God. See if I can't get some information on that. And other days I go to the actual Sharn University and basically repeat the same research that I've done the prior day. And what I'm looking for is checking the validity of anything and getting alternate perspectives to see if there's any areas where accounts vary or making sure that accounts are all the same. I'm primarily looking for patterns in the information, though, either similar or deviant.
Okay. So what kind of patterns are you looking for? I mean, what information are you looking to get from looking for the patterns?
I want to see expeditions to the Mournlands generally require some kind of funding. Now, it's coming from a Dragon house, so funding's not really an issue, but Dragonmark houses, especially ones like Kenneth, are generally speaking not trying to be on the up and up about things. They kind of try to hide what they're doing and work in a more clandestine, less transparent manner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for where that transparency can be found. Who are they actually funding? What are their business dealings? Who are they meeting with? Who are they trading with? These are the kinds of things that I'd expect could be found out through the people from Moorgrave that have been in the area and may have come across people with a dragon mark or that were from a dragon mark house, while the overall group may not be necessarily as transparent. A lot of the lower levels are swaggery and have a tendency to boast because they're part of something bigger. I want to know who they're dealing with and what they're doing over there.
Okay. So what you generally get from your research here is that you don't get anything which in and of itself is a tell. You like you said, you should have found some indication that Kenneth, either as a house or the individual Dragonmark members, were funding things going into the Mournlands, and instead you found pretty much nothing at all. You should have found some real hard evidence of what they were doing. All right, this is the person who's doing this. They're working with this professor. They did this. They brought back these things, and you didn't find any of that at all. Knowing that and digging a little deeper into the fact that you should have already found something, it seems that Kenneth is doing things, but they're working through. It seems that they're working through intermediaries instead of hiring professors directly to go and do things in the Mournland and report back to them. what it seems that they're doing is that they are giving money and funding expeditions through third parties and other uh, more distant connections, instead of hiring people for guards themselves. They hire adventurers who are much more anonymous, much more disposable, as it were. Um, they hire people to go to the professors and propose these expeditions, and even then, you're not digging up a lot of concrete information. You definitely have the feeling and have enough evidence to really feel, to know that Kenneth is doing things, but they're keeping it very, very quiet. And you suspect it's probably got something to do with not so much keeping it out of the hands of the world at large, but it's very likely that it's to keep it out of the hands of the other parts of House Cannith. That because of the ongoing feud, for overall control of House Cannith, Cannith West here in Sharn is operating more or less independently,
More
and
of the same infight.
yes, it's the same infighting, you suspect. It has you. It might not be. You don't have enough information to be 100% sure on that, but it fits the profile, and it has the added benefit of keeping that information away from people like you, who's digging into House Cannith as well.
Okay. After 4 days of getting this information together, I'm going to switch my tack a little bit to look at other things. I want to look at see how much information I can get on the actual factions in House Cannith that are currently vying for power. Names of high-ranking individuals, if I can, and name of local low-ranking individuals as well.
That probably will take you a while. And to some extent, it's not suitable for montage. You'll be able to get the highest profile people. That's you. Given your connections and who you already know, you can find out the factions involved, and it really boils down to there are three different factions. There's House Cannith West, which was here in Sharn. There's House Cannith North, which has been set in Aundair, and there's House Cannith East, which is in Karnath. They didn't. They were mostly unified before the Day of Mourning, when the Day of Mourning basically took out the central leadership of the house, which was based in Sire. And with all of those high-level people, important people, family members, infrastructure, logistics, the whole nine yards, with all of that more or less wiped out in a single fell stroke, that's why there's the infighting, is because the heads of each individual area have felt that they should take off overall control, but the other two have been less inclined to accept their leadership, and there's the infighting definitely at times gets bloody, but it doesn't get bloody at the highest level. Nobody's picking off house leaders. They're picking off smaller local individuals, both actual members of the house and people associated with the house.
Am I able in only a few days to be able to see which house, if any, has suffered the most losses?
No, that's difficult because really right now the only information you have is regarding House Cannith West. If you spent a lot more time or spent a lot more effort, you might be able to get some information from north or east, but realistically, you only can tell what is going on at the local level here in Sharn. The fact that Sharn is very big and very busy and a very powerful part of House Cannith makes it also more difficult.
Okay.
So the information, if you wanted to spend time on it, you could start pulling those threads, but it wouldn't necessarily be easy or short. And you would very likely have to travel to Aundair and Karnath to actually verify any of that information as well.
Cord has additional contacts. He has like an actual relationship with Karnath, correct?
With Karnath? No.
With Cannith.
Cannith? No.
Well,
Kenneth.
Cord has Braylon, Zalargo, and Aundair.
yeah, I don't have those relationships.
Yeah, so nobody has a Cannith relationship.
Okay.
Not directly, anyway. What it really boils down to is that although Cord has a better idea of their inner workings, and there are probably people within Cannith that are aware of Cord and what he does, you're at the moment a fly on the wall. You're a blip on the radar. You're not something that they have taken notice of at more than the smallest level. That can change, but right now that's where it stands.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to, for the remainder of the days,
Well, those already took you up a lot of those days, because that's not a short research.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Was for the research portion, I'm going until the montage ends. I'm going to continue trying to pick at that House Cannith and focus on. You said it was House Cannith West. That was.
They are here. They're in here in Sharn, yes. And in that time, you'd definitely be able to get to the names of some of the more public movers and shakers, both high level and lower level. You probably wouldn't be able to get a ton of names, but the ones that are the most public in terms of going to government events, going to house social events, that sort of thing, you'd probably be able to get some of those names.
Okay. During my evenings for the entire time, I'm going to alternate between going to see the evenings where I go to Moorgrave University. I'm going to have dinner with the head librarian.
You're gonna make me look him up, aren't you?
Whose name we totally know and don't have to look up. Stop that, you.
It was a name you made fun of because it ended up being randomly not right.
Yeah, I actually probably have it faster than she does.
Go for it. I'll need it to spell anyway.
Nope, maybe I don't.
Well, okay.
Either way, that's
yeah,
not
anyway,
that's not super important right now.
Gotta go in the notes.
I go in to have dinner with him, and as often as not, we wind up just talking about our time in the field. He was a soldier during the war, right?
Yes.
So I tell him some of my war stories, hear a couple of his, ask him to tell me some of his research stories, find out what he actually did in the field, pester him constantly to let me know who his daughters are so that I don't wind up hitting on them.
He's still not going to tell you.
Bastard.
He still insists that if you're half the researcher you claim to be, that you will find out yourself.
Aren't the girls at dinner?
What's that?
Wouldn't the girls be at dinner?
Did you specifically request to have dinner with him and his daughters?
Well, I kind of expected that his daughters would be grown and gone based on his age.
Yes.
They would be my age.
That they are, in fact.
So, I mean, unless they are in town, we just, when he knocks off work, it's time for me to leave the library anyway, because that's the point where the library is closing. And I say, hey, let's go get some chow.
All right.
And how I expected that exchange to go. And every time he tells me that if I'm half the researcher that I claim to be, I pretty much resign myself to, okay, after we're done with this current investigation, I'm going to find out who your damn daughters are, and we're going to have a conversation.
All right. So, yeah, you don't really get any more information out of that, but you've made a contact of sorts, or maintained a contact of sorts.
Some of the nights that I'm not having dinner with him, I'd like to go and see my old tutor, the one that taught me my psionic abilities, and pretty much just meditate with him, stay in practice of maintaining my craft, working through more or less mental katas, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll end the montages there.
Mother effing montage.
So after all this research you guys have done, after all the stuff you've looked into, you at your next meeting with your handler, you're told to all come. You've been trickling in one or two at a time. Sometimes you've all been there, but you've been so busy with your own stuff that you haven't really made a concerted effort to all be there to brief Alistair all at the same time. But this time you guys get a message saying that you all need to be there at a specific time. They indicate that you need to go back to the same Citadel-owned tavern. What was a tavern, right? Yeah, it was or a restaurant. It was a restaurant that you were meeting at before, and you're supposed to be there at about 1 o'clock. So, if there's anything that specific you want to do before going over there, let me know. If not, well, I will assume that you just head over at about that time.
Let me look up his name real quick. Alistair.
Dr. Bob.
I've got nothing. I just kind of go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meet up in powwow.
So when you get there, the bartender looks you guys in the eye and kind of gestures with his chin towards the back. And you see Alistair there, but you also see someone that you haven't seen in a few days, and that is Irvelyn. She looks tired. She looks like she's been very busy, at least as busy as you all have. And when she sees you coming over, she waves you to come over and sit down. And tells you to order whatever you'd like. This might be a bit of a longer meeting. So once you've all gotten some sort of food or drink or both, she looks over at you over her fingers, and she's like, Alistair has gotten me caught up on what you've been doing the last few days. I'm glad that you're making progress. I wish you'd solved this whole situation, but I understand that these things take time, especially when something or someone seems to be working against us. But from what it sounds like, you've developed at least some leads. Is that correct?
Some.
Information at the minimum.
Well, we need to... Pressure is coming down to get this figured out. Not just on me, but the entire Citadel here in Sharn. The higher-ups in Rote are not terribly happy with several dozen of their citizens being killed with no motive, no explanation, no suspect. But we, between what you've learned and what Alistair has put together, I think perhaps we can start wrapping this up, or at least getting it to a closer point to do so. On my end, or as I should say, Alistair's end, it seems that House Madani may know a little more than we've been able to pry out of their closets. A disgraced member of the family got in touch with one of our agents, indicating that they had that the Madani of higher-ups had some knowledge of what had gone on, but he did not know exactly what information. But nevertheless, we need to bring him in and debrief him as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. House Madani does not take well to people rifling through their secrets, and I suspect that if word gets back to them that this former House member is looking to tell some of those secrets, he may be silenced on a permanent basis. So we will need to bring him in. We've also narrowed down and completely eliminated all possible individuals who were living in the apartment complex, and we've determined which ones were not there. And from there, we've also determined which ones could not have been present for the device activation. We have 5 names. We will need you to find these people and bring them in as well. The names that keep coming up... are you familiar with the term Kalistar?
Yeah. Star are the dreamers, right?
I don't know about the dreamers, but from what I understand, they seem to be possessed of greater than normal powers of the mind. 3 of the 5 names that we have listed are Kalistar. And given what we've learned about this device so far, either they knew about the device and set it off, or they knew about the device and made sure that they were nowhere nearby. Either way, that indicates that perhaps they might have some knowledge that we do not regarding what this device is and who might be behind it. And lastly, Cord, it seems that your Cannith contact might be more important than we thought.
Okay.
Alistair received word from Winsome that it's really incontrovertible proof that the devices were made within House Cannith.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps by individuals, perhaps with the House's knowledge, perhaps by some faction within the House. But regardless, it seems that House Cannith has something to do with this. Perhaps in ignorance, perhaps with their full cooperation, but nevertheless, we need to find out what House Cannith knows and who within House Cannith knows it. we don't have enough time to have all of you work on one of these things one at a time, so I will need to send you off separately. Juan D, I will need you to make contact with the Kalishtar. As an individual with powers of the mind yourself, I feel that you are in the best position to understand these Kalishtar, whatever or whoever they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Cord, I will need you to make contact with House Cannith. I understand that you've already arranged to meet with somebody low level within the
Yes.
house, not an actual Dragon Mark member. Is that correct?
No. Yeah, not a Dragon Mark member, but a person who works in Artifice as a student, whom I feel maybe have been recruited at some point with some of those people. So,
Well, if the person you're meeting with doesn't know enough, use them to find somebody who can.
okay, so okay, yeah, I'm looking to make good contact on with her. Then at this point, no type of a try to bond with her, I guess.
It's
Oh.
however you do it. If you need to get her cooperation, or if you can do it without her cooperation, however you need to do it, you have that discretion is at your disposal.
All right.
And lastly, we need Wraith. I need you to bring in this House Madani member, alive, unharmed, whatever it takes.
Very
Lucan, Gemabeth, you need to go with whoever you feel best needs your talents for their particular task. If Pearl were here, I would have her assist it well as well, but Pearl has gone missing. I last heard from her 3 days ago regarding the Dawn brothers that she was looking into, and I have not heard back from her since. I'm not sure if she has just not been in a position to report, which is very possible. But on the other hand, given the events of the last 2 weeks, it is a concern. Nevertheless, we will have to put that aside for the moment and deal with that as it comes. Rote is... They want this solved now. They want this solved 10 days ago. And we need to give them something, anything. It's part of the reason that the Captain of the Swords is coming. Not so much to check on Lucan, though that is certainly part of it, but stupid interdepartmental power plays. When you put together an organization full of the best and the brightest, and you put them to work at intrigue and secrets, inevitably power struggles are wont to happen, but nevertheless, this is the worst possible time for people to be flexing their muscles within the Citadel. Nevertheless, it will be taken care of. Lucan just needs to do what he has been doing. I will push back against this as best as I can, and you all need to pull something together for this. Even if it's just a solid lead moving forward, that's better than spinning our wheels waiting for information as we've done for the last 10 days. I admit there's another reason that I need you to hurry as fast as you can to solve this problem. As you're aware, I've been gone for the last few days dealing with another problem. 2 of our agents in Allendare have gone missing.
Yeah.
Normally this would not fall within our purview, but both of those agents had cover stories that had them originating here in Sharn, and we provided their documents to that effect. We, as you're aware, we suspect there's a leak somewhere within the Citadel here in Sharn. And as you are as trustworthy as anybody within the Citadel at the moment. So as soon as you're done here, I may need to pack you off and send you north to investigate this, find the missing agents, make contact with the agents that are still there, and uncover what's going on. But this comes first, because if this device, if they can make it bigger, more powerful, the potential for this is far greater than whatever repercussions might come from not investigating Alandare quickly enough. So, with that in mind, I need you to get underway as quickly as possible. Time is not our friend. So, finish your meal and get moving. And I have a phone call, just a second.
Derp, derp, derp. Get moving.
So yeah, probably. I mean, I'm just gonna say that if Lucan would want to go, but I don't know. Does he have? As a vampire? Do you guys know if he has any like, I don't know, interrogation skills?
He might have some interrogation skills as a member of the Swords.
Yeah.
But that I don't know that for certain. It really all depends on how Graham decided to build. But you would assume he would have. I mean, he would probably have a background somewhere in there that's, if not a pro, at least competent. I mean, Swords
Yeah.
being the more or less the guard.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, I mean, I'm going to, like, the backup plan would be to have him shadow, unless either you or Juan feel like they would need him for a backup on that end.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the tough call because my character would probably feel pretty confident in handling my mission myself, but again, this is an RPG, so
Right.
I'm at the mercy of the dice.
And
So
you're doing like an escort, right? So
more
yeah,
or less,
you should probably have at least 2 people with you on that.
Yeah, I think so. I
think it's a full-fledged escort. I'm not entirely sure if it's like a search and escort kind of deal. Like I gotta find this guy. Because if I gotta find him, then it's spycraft until I find him, and then hopefully we don't run into any shit.
It's from what you're understanding, it's a little of both. He wants to have that information. He wants to get that information to you, but he is also very well aware that Madani isn't just going to sit around and let him do it. So he's not going to sit out in the open and wait. So there's a little bit of finding him first that's going on.
Okay, so yeah, I'm probably going to need backup because in order to keep secrets from getting spilled on a major dragon-marked house, they're probably going to devote some resources.
Yeah, and my thing, I mean, solo, I'm going to try for the charming way first, and then if I have to, I can just be evil to a young lady.
Okay, well, we're going to stop there. Let's see. Our normal schedule at this point is 2 weeks from now, I believe.
When is that?
That's the 20th.
Okay.
Actually, let's stop the broadcast before we get into that real quick. So everybody say goodbye to our viewers.
Goodbye.
Bye, viewer.